Do you think the WWE specially commissions flimsy trash cans?
I mean, I've never seen a trash can as flimsy as that one. The metal is so thin.
Well,
it's like it's been sculpted out of foil.
Yeah, like all the metal is basically aluminum foil, I think. They have to be able to crack it over each other's heads with little consequence. Basically, all of the wrestlers from the 90s are brain damaged beyond repair because they didn't gimmick the metal at that point. They just
went to the store and bought whatever and hit each
bashed
other with it
over the head with, steel.
Was that considered it was considered uncool as all safety measures?
Well, yeah,
generally?
you're considered like a real wuss if you didn't what
are you even doing taking safety measures?
Nowadays, when they go to hit each other in the head with something, the one who's getting hit will put their hand in between the object and their head to cushion the blow. But if you did that in 1998, oh boy, you'd lose all respect for you.
Okay, so now he's pulling out, it's a folding table covered in mouse traps, and some of the mouse traps are glued down and some of them aren't.
Well, I think someone did a shoddy job. I think they're
okay, for a minute I thought because they were moving around so much that none of them were glued down, and somehow he was gonna get a bunch of mouse traps balanced on a folding table. I mean, that's a real stop sign that he just
I don't think that's a gimmick
cracked
stop
over
sign.
His back. Who are these characters?
One
of them is wearing underpants on the outside.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's again the high holiest of holidays. It is Wrestlemania. We're recording this during Wrestlemania. Right now, the match that is on the television features Sami Zayn versus Jackass's Johnny Knoxville. Sami Zayn just suplexed Johnny Knoxville through a table. Yeah, Johnny Knoxville does appear to be wearing
underwear on the
outside. I mean, in a sense, they're all wearing underwear, right? Like all of their.
But he's wearing boxer shorts over a bodysuit.
Like a onesie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think he got hard weighed. I think Johnny Knoxville. Sorry, I'm using inside wrestling lingo, but it looks like Johnny Knoxville, his head has been busted open, but usually in wrestling when that happens, they have bladed themselves. They have taken a razor blade to their own head for effect, but
looks like his own glasses
might have busted him open.
Busted into his forehead.
Yeah, if you get cut open unintentionally, that's called it's hard way. You've been hard weighed. It looks like Party Boy. Do you recall this guy from Jackass?
Even though I was exactly the age for it, I didn't really watch Jackass.
Well, Party Boy, a compatriot of Johnny Knoxville, has entered the ring to confront Johnny Knoxville and save. He's doing a Russian dance now. He appears to be there to save Johnny Knoxville. Oh, he's tearing off his clothes.
Oh, and
he does not have a good physique.
He's got a bow tie and little.
He's wearing
Speedo?
A thong. He's wearing a Speedo thong.
Oh, it's jorts?
It's jorts, but a thong.
It's a jorts thong. Interesting.
I don't know if
a jong?
A jong. I don't know. I speak glowingly about pro wrestling as high art. But
this is Jackass.
They're doing Jackass at WrestleMania is what this is, I think. This is not like two elite athletes at their, doing beautifully choreographed gymnastics and dance with one another like sort of high art pro wrestling is. This appears to be Jackass.
Well, you're Roman.
You're Allison. And this is Jackass. Business. It's city business. Yeah, like we said, we're recording this is Sunday evening during WrestleMania. This is not going to be, we're not looking at a catalog today. to honor WrestleMania, to celebrate it with the
solemnity.
with the dignity and solemnity that it deserves, I thought we could talk a little bit about the intersection of gardening, of plants and gardening with pro wrestling. I've jotted down some notes of things to talk about, but you have to understand we're being actively distracted by this Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville match. Before we get to that, I do have to narrate that Wee Man is now here of Jackass fame, and he's gotten from underneath the ring what can only be, they haven't used it yet, but it's clearly a dick kicking device. It's like, how would you describe this?
Yeah, I would have called it a groin kicking machine, but
It's
I
a
think
machine.
those are the same.
It's a leg on like a fulcrum that you can.
Yeah, it's a stand. It's a stand with a prosthetic leg that can be swung upon the stand.
Yeah.
And it's wearing a boot.
It's wearing a boot. It's clear that when
and it's got a little
swung,
handle, and so you just pump the handle, and that will activate its kicking action.
Yeah. They haven't used it. They've gone on to other things, but it's clearly a Chekhov's groin kicking device. There's no way that thing doesn't come into play. I'm just narrating this now. Johnny Knoxville has taken a bowling ball out of a bag. He bowled the bowling ball into Sami Zayn's groin. I can't believe they're going to do a groin kicking device after that bowling ball in the groin. Oh, here it comes. Wow, the crowd goes wild. He got a bowling ball in the groin, and then
it might be a mannequin leg, come to think of it. Now I've got a close up. Wow, he really activated that groin kicking machine.
Wow, this is
and the
best.
Referee is just sort of moving it over to the side.
Yeah, you know, if we were listening to this and hearing what the commentators were saying, I guarantee they would be yelling, "It's all legal, ladies and gentlemen."
Yeah, they would be reminding you over and over again that this is a groin kicking machine allowed.
Wait, what the fuck just happened?
Well, he got slapped by a giant hand that is also mounted on a machine.
Where did that come from? Well, this is just getting Three Stooges-y now, which I guess Jackass is. Now he's got tongs. He has tongs that he grabbed. Like, holy shit, what a bump. All right, Johnny Knoxville grabbed Sami Zayn's junk with tongs.
Like salad tongs.
With salad tongs. Then threw him off the ropes of the ring, through the table covered in mousetrap.
Is this good radio? Is this like an old-fashioned, like how they would describe the baseball game?
Yeah, listen, people still listen to like baseball and football calls on...
That's like an ASMR thing, I think. The only reason to listen to baseball is because it like feels soothing, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right, well, I hope this feels soothing to someone out there.
Well, there's a giant mousetrap now.
Yeah, it's a human-sized mousetrap.
Like a 10-foot-long mousetrap.
Like if you were trying to catch a human in a mousetrap.
Which I think he is.
Size you
He's now tased him. He's tased him. Johnny Knoxville's tased Sami Zayn into the mousetrap and appears to be on the precipice of activating it.
Okay, but they really missed an opportunity to put the belt in the mousetrap and as bait and have him try to be hoist on his own petard by trying to acquire the belt that way.
Well, Johnny Knoxville's...
He won by pinfall because the mousetrap
Sami Zayn was caught in the mousetrap. Yeah. Wow, what a feel-good story. All right, so I've come at this in a few different ways. So as a child, the first wrestler that I ever experienced with any connection to gardening was Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Are you familiar with this guy?
Not at all.
So he has a very confusing gimmick where he started out as like a Chippendale dancer, hence the beefcake part of his name. But then he transitioned to being like a barber and a Chippendale dancer. He's a Chippendale dancer who cut hair.
In real life, does he cut hair?
No.
I don't understand. Why is that a wrestling gimmick? I
Anything
cut
can be a
hair.
wrestling gimmick. But here's what he cut hair with: garden shears.
Okay,
He
that's
had
pretty
big
good.
garden shears.
And that was like a move he would do on people.
Yeah, is cut their hair with garden shears. But also obviously they're intimidating to see coming at you.
Well, yeah, it's the implied threat of castration.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it was more than implied a lot of the time, but all that was ever really cut was hair. There were a lot of wrestlers when I was a kid who were farmers in some way.
Was it ever specified what their farm produced?
Yeah. So most of these characters were like hybrid farmer hillbilly types. Like they're meant to be stereotypes of hicks, sort of, but their occupation was farmer. Their occupation was farmer, but their ethos was like hillbilly. So there were the Godwins, who were these two really enormous guys that were pig farmers, I think. Some other farmers of note were Uncle Elmer, I think Uncle Cletus was one guy. Oh, there was Hillbilly Jim. Hillbilly Jim was a big overall wearing hairy guy. He was supposed to be a farmer. Haystacks Calhoun.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they all had names like Uncle Cletus and Haystacks Calhoun. But as far as I know, there weren't really any gardening or gardener gimmicks, just farmer gimmicks. It looks like there is one indie wrestler now using a gardener gimmick. His name is Gus the Gardener. And he has like sort of a canvas / khaki full body attire that's sort of cut off, not a onesie. What's the word I'm looking for?
Coveralls.
Coveralls, yeah. Khaki coveralls and work boots, and he carries either like a hoe or a shovel to the ring. That's one working guy at the moment. He doesn't have much acclaim, I wouldn't say. The wrestling has done a terrible job treating any kind of person with any manner of respect throughout the years. There actually, now that I think of it, one gardening gimmick before this, but they were Mexican gardeners, right? The WWE in the 90s hired like three of the greatest luchadors out of Mexico, which is great, of course, that they got a good payday from the WWE or WWF at that point. But they brought in three of the most skilled, high-flying, breathtaking luchadors and then made them do like a Mexican gardener gimmick where they rode to the ring on like riding mowers and stuff like that. That's not great. It's not great at all. In more modern times, Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys, one of the most famous tag teams ever, Matt Hardy devised a really weird gimmick where he filmed a bunch of vignettes from his estate in North Carolina, and he had like all the members of his like family and household as characters in it. He had his infant son was like the king, and his drone was a character, and he had like a anthropomorphized rowboat that was a character. And his gardener, his actual real life gardener, was a character in it who like dug graves for his enemies and sort of got his weaponry all together. It was sort of like an Alfred to Batman type situation. He wasn't a wrestler, but he, as a gardener, did play a major role in wrestling storyline. But two things that I really wanted to get to. One, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson. Do you remember when he had the gimmick, the
vegan?
Yeah, well, he was a vegan. He was the planet champion. So he was like an environmentalist, but that was a heel.
That's
He had to be bad,
yeah.
Right? Because of course the crowd was gonna viciously boo anyone who was concerned with environmentalism in any way.
See, I'm here to take you on a much-needed educational journey. See this? This is what you people call a concession stand. But the only concessions being made are to your health and to your well-being. And look at yourselves. Look at the people next to you. Are you healthy? innocuous that you just shove candy, you shove popcorn down your throats, and that is why you cheer AJ Styles.
It's a stretch.
He's exactly like this hot dog.
Well, if you cheer AJ Styles, it is because your life is empty. That's true.
AJ Styles is exactly like this. They're choking down these toxic nitrates.
What do? Do they leave with something worthwhile? No, they leave empty and they move on to something else. Something like an extra large serving of high fructose corn syrup. Of course, slurped down with a plastic straw in a plastic cup that's choking the earth that we live on, one cup at a time.
So yeah, I liked this gimmick that Daniel Bryan did. I especially like there's this tendency, of course, for heels in wrestling. They like to call the audience like fat, right? That's a way to get heat. They'll say like, oh, here in San Antonio, all the people out there are fat or something. And that sucks. Is cheap and ugly and like extremely not cool. And I really like that Daniel Bryan was able to do this gimmick about veganism and like shitting on everyone's eating hot dogs. And
I mean, he didn't even
soda.
actually, none of that was vegan politics. It was just like health
and you're into plastics
food
and stuff like that. But I like that he does not resort to that sort of language. So Daniel Bryan Danielson, in his own life, is a gardener, though, and he has videos about his garden. And here's one of him talking about some of his seeds that he's planting.
Oh, wow.
Hey everybody, so I'm out here, I'm going to plant some seeds here in our garden. So the first is the Oregon sugar pod pea. And so these will actually require a trellis once they start growing. So I'm planting them along this edge. That way I can bolt in a trellis. The key with seeds is it's better to plant them too shallow than too deep. If you plant them too deep, it's going to be hard for some of them to bust up through the soil. So for these, I plant them about 8 inches apart. So I just go there, there, there. So the next is dinosaur kale. And dinosaur kale, also called lacinato kale, you can see.
So it's sort of a dry video, but it's interesting that, he's a real A-list pro wrestler is making gardening videos.
Content. No, I love that. I mean, I like him.
Yeah.
He's very likable.
He's very likable. He, of course, was on a reality show with his wife, who is one of the Bella twins, who were wrestlers also. So at one point, he was dating one of them, and John Cena was dating the other one of them. And they were on this reality show together. And here's a clip of Daniel Bryan telling John Cena about wanting to do a gardener gimmick as a wrestler called Lloyd Peacock. That's who he wanted his gardener to be.
There aren't really many big YouTube gardening channels, right? And the idea would be me as an 80s wrestler who's like trying to be a gardener. Yeah, everybody, Lloyd Peacock here, Grappling Gardener. I'm here to build a raised bed. And
I mean, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, that hasn't come to fruition
I can't believe they
yet,
didn't let him do that.
Well, now that he's in AEW, they might let him do it. I feel like he has more creative freedom there. All right, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the use of gardening implements in death matches.
Oh, wow. Is there a Wikipedia page with that title? Because there probably should be.
There is a Wikipedia page about death match types, or maybe it's just a match type page, but there's I'll have right beneath the section where they listed some of the gardening tools that have been used in death matches, like shears, like weed whackers. Right under that section was a match type I'd never heard of, which was a anal death match.
What is that?
It's okay. So in order to win the match, you have to put a lit firework into the butthole of your opponent and it has to explode.
And when and where has this been accomplished?
It's only been done once, according to Wikipedia.
And who did that?
I haven't found video of it, but what I have found video of is a number of...
Well, no, hold on. Before you move on to your whatever you have queued up, I mean, I have long... So first of all, there's an entire genre of porn, obviously, that is people wrestling one another, and then whoever loses the match bottoms. And that's sort of the subtext of a lot of pro wrestling. But I need to know what year and which promotion and whether it was...
Okay, it's called an anus explosion death match, excuse me. The first comment on this is, you can't fake that. Actually, I think there is. No, it's no longer available. It was in Japan.
I mean, the process of testing this to figure out, like, what is the right amount of firecracker that won't fuck you up.
I think Hayabusa won, who's like a name that I've heard of but don't know much about. But what I was saying, what I do have some video of is some weed whacker death matches.
Oh, holy shit.
I don't think there's any shortage of blood here at CZW tonight. Live in Dover, Delaware, it's got the weed whacker on. Oh, weed whacker on this. Leave the weed whacker on this. It's a human being, not a plant.
It's a human being, not a plant.
Is it a cordless weed whacker?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That screaming is
There's
so
another
much.
good one.
He's got the weed whacker. He's got the weed whacker. Not the damn weed whacker. Somebody stop the fucking match already. Just stop it. Just end it. Leave it alone. No, it's not working. Go out with some pride. Go out with some dignity. Excuse me. Ow! Excuse me. That's all. Enough already.
What you didn't see in that video is after. So this is these.
Well, nobody who's listening to this saw anything in any video.
I'm gonna link to these for sure.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, this is John Danzig gets hit by a weed whacker. What you're not seeing in these videos is these men are just bloodied from head to toe. They're in a ring covered with like smashed light tubes and all kinds of wild shit. In this second one, he gets hit with the weed whacker, and then someone comes in and dumps a bucket of salt on his back.
I mean, that's hilarious because it doesn't look like anything. It just hurts the person experiencing it.
It's not dramatic.
It's
it
not,
just makes him suffer
like it adds
more.
nothing to the performance.
Yeah.
The audience can't like see something happen other than, I guess, screaming.
Yeah. Well, all this stuff is for their own benefit. They're doing it for like a crowd of like 15 people in the first place. All right. I'll leave us with a article from last year. This is from May of 2021. It's from The Sun. So, reputable journalism being done here. It's called Up in Flames. Watch horrific moment. Wrestler has groin set on fire in deathmatch stunt, which goes wrong as fans try to douse flames. Frankly, terrible headline. Let's listen to this sentence one more time. Watch horrific moment. Wrestler has groin set on fire in deathmatch stunt, which goes wrong as fans try to douse flames.
Yeah. Terrible. That's some terrible writing.
Just read this to you. A pro wrestling train wreck star was engulfed in flames and left screaming in agony following a fire stunt gone wrong. The unknown wrestler was set ablaze at the Southern Sickness Cup in Indiana after allowing his opponent to douse his groin area with lighter fluid. Flames quickly covered the wrestler's crotch, but things took a turn for the worse when his entire lower half was engulfed after he was then prodded with a weed whacker. So it seems to me that they set him on fire. The fire began sort of getting out of control, and then they tried to put it out with a weed whacker, and then the weed whacker made it worse. They whacked his fire crotch.
They did not try to put out a fire with a weed whacker.
That's how that reads.
There's no way that somebody thought, oh, this fire's out of control. What I'd better do is get a weed whacker in there.
This article is heavily implying that they tried to mitigate the fire with a weed whacker.
No, they just thought it would be funny to weed whacker someone's crotch while it was on fire. Yeah, of course. Of course, that's why they would do that.
The flaming man crashed into a wall and was surrounded by spectators who tried to put out the flames with their bottles of water and cans of beer, but they were powerless to stop the raging fire, which prompted the wrestler to return to his feet and run for his life.
I mean, again, there's literally no way that someone who has trained to do a stunt where they're set on fire would, when it went wrong, just run around randomly. That's not.
The woman who tweeted this video commented, "His whole ass, pants, and boxers burnt right off his body." Responses to that tweet include, "This was not thought through," and "This is the most chaotic shit I've ever seen in my life."
Okay, so this was a poorly thought out, poorly trained.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Another one remarked, "This is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and I go to indie wrestling shows all the time."
All right, so this is some jackass shit.
Oh, yeah. He suffered second-degree burns.
Okay, so he received no training.
Wow, wow, wow.
There was no training or preparation for being set on fire. No, this is like
some backyard shit.
Okay. Like he didn't even Google how to be set on fire.
And be hit in the dick with a weed whacker. Well, there's not like a Quora answer on how to do that. There's not a wiki how on how to set your dick on fire and get hit with a weed whacker. All right. Well, that's all we got. We'll be back with the actual catalog at some point soon here. You can follow us on Twitter at the place or on Instagram at that other place. Email us at the address that we usually say. Don't let untrained people kick you in the dick and eat your vegetables.
Well, I would say we're all just doing the best we can, but I guess
Some people are really winging it.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
It's city business. It's city business. Boring talk about seats, city talk between boys. Mind-numbing chatter about our mules and spores. We'll dig a ditch and moan and split the difference. City business. It's city business.